Cool. Welcome, Plan Stage Weekly, December 1st, APAC edition. Topeka, you have the first demo around the as part of OKR management, but also as part of just work items in general, the ability to view, or the next iteration of the ability to view system notes or activities.
So, share my screen. Yeah. So, yeah. So, this is the first iteration of the 3 MRs that I'm planning for of showing the activities related to the task. This one revolves only around showing the list of the activities, which activities or the system notes that are related to a task here. If you see, right now I'm fetching the list of first 100 at the straight go, and there is no pagination involved right now. It's just the list of the activities associated. And what I found out while I was working on the tasks is no task has more than 100. So because I wanted to, in the first iteration, I wanted everyone to have a look at how the activities look like. It's the first 100. We will be planning pagination and the sorting order in the next iteration. So if you see, there is so what I've used here is a system note, alert system note component that is reusable. So there currently, if you see, there's 2 system notes, one that is used in issues and the other one for the alert management. The one that is used in issues is closely tied to Vuex, which I could not use. The other one was system note for the alert management, which I could use by just, writing an couple of extra, copying the CSS, little adding classes here and there. I could have created another component, which is a very small thing, which is fine, but I could use that. Hence I've used that, just adding a couple of extra classes there. Not in the same component, obviously, because that's a shared component, adding what I could in my work item code. So if you see, it's by default, it's ordered by date, oldest first. But there are some things which are going on here in here 5 days ago. That is a bug at the back end, and which is being catered by Alex in a separate MR. You can see the same what the changes involved in both the model view and the full view. In the model view, what I've done for now, which maybe I can do in the same MR, I'm sure, but I wanted to push it more forward quickly. So if you look here, I've made the modal scrollable. Yes, the header should be fixed. Yes, that we can do, that the header should be fixed while we scroll for the activities or the discussions. That is one thing that can be done as an improvement here. But yeah, what I've made here is made the modal scrollable to make sure that we can, scroll through the list of activities. Yeah, so right now what I'm doing is here, if you see, I'll just inspect so we are fetching the work item, and I'm fetching the work item notes as a separate query in a single request, because it might be the case that it is like when we merge everything, the notes are heavy. Already we are fetching multiple widgets at the same go in the work item. So we can merge it as well, but it did make sense because there's multiple discussions or multiple notes can come. So I have made the Polo query as a single request, which is going in a different batch. Yeah. So here in the work item, I'm only fetching is the widget there or not. And in a separate query, what I'm doing is, like you see, I'm not fetching the notes here. I'm fetching the notes in a separate query, which returns, obviously this will return everything else, and then the discussion, the nodes and the pagination stuff is here. So it's a single request. Let's see, maybe we will need to change the space size or something in the next iteration, but that's how it is for now. Yeah. Any questions?
That request that you had displayed
Yeah.
there, are we getting are we refetching the other widget?
No, we're not fetching. By default, the type and type name is there for all of them. So we're not fetching everything else. See, we're not fetching everything else. By default, the type name of all the widgets does come. We're not fetching it. Yeah. Like for here, I did not, like if you see the query.
Yeah, it returns the list, but with nothing in them.
Yes.
We can't
Yes.
filter by widget type yet, I believe.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It just returns the type name, like the other widgets that are there. It's not returning anything else.
Is it more efficient to, so for those widgets on the original call, are we getting back the data?
Yes, yes. On the
in those
original call,
two?
we're fetching. Yes,
Okay.
yes, we are. Yes, we are. For everything else, we are. I discussed that with Natalia in the last discussion because so I was having this discussion with Alex around the performance of the notes. And the best thing that we could do is fetch the notes separately so that it should not be clubbed. For example, it is taking time, and why should I stop fetching all the other things, stop showing all the other things just because notes is taking time. So that's the reason why I kept it as a single request. We can change it, but I think, do you have any points regarding this, that if we merge it together, I can do it. That's a simple thing. I just need to add it to the widgets and fetch it. Right now, I specifically have a work item notes different query where which I'm fetching on the.
I think separate is good.
Yes. I'm
Keep it
almost
separate.
leaning towards every widget should get data separately. Like, why not,
Because the notes might take time to come. It's performance. We can't see that thing right now because there's not much notes and everything. But keeping it as a separate request because we don't have a lot of hierarchy anyways. We don't have so much data in other widgets. Honestly, it's only the activity widget that has so much data inside. So we can do that, but I agreed that we should keep it because we were having discussions on, we already having moving on, leaning on something else for showing the widgets, different labels, start date, everything, and notes also. It might take time and it may lead to performance issues. I'm not sure. Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, when it comes to system notes and discussions in general, I feel that keeping it as a separate query would be ideal. Because if you look at current implementation of Notes app, we do polling there to implement sort of a real-time-ish nature. So ideally, we would want a subscription for activity as well as system notes. So if it is a separate subscription, then it makes sense to have those not be part of the query of the base page itself, so that we can subscribe to it and make sure that any new activity happening elsewhere is reflected immediately, much like other widget types, be it labels, assignees, or descriptions.
Well, so all the widgets are separate queries. They're just batched together, right?
I think, yeah. So Donald, where you're going, I think batching the non-notes queries does make sense, because otherwise then you'll have a lot of, like, you'll see 7 or 8 different loading skeletons at the top. And then that's kind of more flickering for the sake of saving 50 milliseconds. Whereas, like, let's say the main query takes a second to load and then the notes take another second, then batching those separately is good. But splitting every single widget into its own query can lead to like excessive loading and jumping as stuff flashes in, rather than just being like, here's the sidebar information and description, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think batching some of them makes sense, but keeping the main ones grouped and then notes separate.
And also it aligns well with the issues page right now, where if you load an issues page, you see description, title, and everything loaded first, while you still see skeleton loader showing up for the discussion part. And once the notes are in, we may jump to a specific discussion depending on whether a permalink was used to navigate or not. So it would replicate similar behavior here as well, where notes can take its own query, can take its own time to load the data, while user can still see initial batch of information available.
Cool. But sorry, just to verify though, we are using Apollo batching to batch all of the widget requests together. We're not doing that manually by calling it at the work item level, right? Like we have a different Apollo query in every widget.
No.
Oh,
In like half of them we do, but a lot of them just use the work item detail query that's in the top level one, and then it passes down results. There's a bit of a mix currently.
okay.
That's straightforward enough to change, and the batching does then happen automatically. So like the child widgets and queries and things.
Okay. Is there a, like, do we have a preference on what we want to do? Like, should we have, because the ideally it's portable for, I don't know if there's ever going to be a use case where we're using widgets outside of a work item.
Yeah, they're supposed to be though. So a widget component's supposed to have its own query and then just be drop-inable wherever.
Okay. All right, so that is what we should be doing, but we haven't been doing that everywhere yet.
Yes.
Okay. We should change that. Yeah, for everything new, I think all the newer widgets, we should definitely make sure that they're all using their own query. I'm going to link in the notes, but there is a discussion going on in the GraphQL in the GraphQL channel about removing batching just removing auto batching because we're using HTTP2.
Yeah, there was something which I read.
Decision's been made, but yeah.
Which I read about, yes. So Simon, I'm going to give this for review, for the initial review. I have asked for UX approval from Nick, and then you can have a look, and because you'll be working on discussions, so just give any feedback that you have for this.
Okay, one thing I wanted to talk about that I talked about with you earlier, Deepika, was the sort order. Currently for activity, we are I think we're just getting everything from that discussions JSON, and then we're ordering it on the front end.
Yes.
It's going to be a little bit more difficult, I think, on the in the GraphQL version, because we're not going to as easily be able to grab everything unless we're doing it in the background. Yeah. So I think Alexandru had said that it's going to be difficult to optimize that query or the ordering if we do it on the back end. I don't know how hard we should try to get that done on the back end. What do y'all think?
Is that because of the cursor pagination that it's harder? I saw a thread, but I haven't read it yet.
That it's harder for us to for the front end to handle
but back end how doesn't it work currently on the back end?
No.
The ordering for reverse. Oh, okay. There you go. Didn't know that.
So
are you saying the discussions are not ordered in the backend?
Correct.
I mean, we always fetch all the discussions for issues on the first go. So the sorting is right now being handled on the front end. We were having discussions of handling it in the back end, but then it looks like we'll have to do in the front end only, because we have to load all the discussions at one go. I mean, at one go as in at the same time, either in batches or something, but definitely we're not waiting for an event to load more activities or discussions.
So in the GraphQL query, it says first 100. So
Yeah.
Are you saying, what if there are like 200 notes, then we load 200 notes
Yeah.
and then sort them in the front end? Is that what we?
Yeah.
That's not.
Yeah, I know. That's weird, but yes.
So you paginate until there is no more,
That's what happening on issues, yes.
but issues don't use
GraphQL.
GraphQL to.
Yes, they don't. Yes, they don't. They use REST API.
So,
Oh,
so
so
okay.
discussions.json is not pulling in all of them. We are doing some manual pagination in the background.
Yeah, if you see, yes, if you see, you can see that first is 20, then we're loading in batches. The per page 30, and we send the end cursor there as well in the REST API. If I can show it for this one. Like per page 20, and then if there are more discussions, let me just see. And we send the end cursor as well. So see, and we send the cursor after that till the time all the discussions are not loaded. And I haven't even scrolled down, so that's what happens here.
Donald, what was the reason why we couldn't do this? Alexander said. I don't have
Why
any
we couldn't do
context on
this
it.
that we're doing here?
Yeah, that's the question.
We can.
Why we can?
Yeah. So that's what he recommended doing
Hmm.
is the same approach and then
Yeah.
order on the front end.
Oh yeah, but my question was, is there any discussion on why, like, context on we can't do that in the back end? Ordering discussions.
Because of performance is what, so we were having discussions regarding. So he suggested that since we're doing the same for issues, we can do the same for tasks as well, because it's already done on issues. I honestly haven't, looked into code so much. That is my next step. But yeah, we're just having discussions on what's best way to do it for tasks. We should optimize it for the best way for tasks, no matter what is done for issues, is what I feel. But if there's no other choice and we just have to do that, we'll have to. Yeah.
I mean, we might as well paginate in the back end, right? And then sort them and send them to the front end then. Was there a reason
So,
against?
yeah, the only thing I guess that he must have, for example, I've already loaded, for example, there are 300 and I've already loaded 300. And if I sort at the back end, like for I've already loaded 300, then he will have to query and load first, second, third, and then sort. Better, why not we do it in the front end, because already we have all the things. So yeah, I guess that's the reason. What do you say about that?
Well,
I'm
so
thinking.
we're only the only reason we're getting all of the the only reason that we're getting all of the discussions is so that we can order it on the front end. If we were doing like now, if we had pagination in here, either infinite scroll or a button to load more discussions,
then
we don't have that option to do that right now, and we probably should paginate that way, because do we really need to pull in all discussions?
Yeah, so I asked the same, and I had the same thing at once, like, why are we doing it? Why on it was the same thought. And then I had a discussion with Natalia, and she said that we can't do that because we need to see everything when for issues as well. Maybe I don't know about how it will behave. I've just loaded, for example, first 50, and then if I load more, all the discussions, the next 50 are loaded. I don't know how it will behave, but it is not a good UX. I don't know. At least on issues, what I do is when I open an issue, I see everything at one go. I don't really, and it's not that bad as well for now, but it may be for bigger discussions or something. But yeah,
Yeah, so I think doing it the way we do it with issues is a fine first iteration. Just getting all of the notes and ordering it on the front end. I think we'll want to think through possibly different UX
Yeah.
approaches, especially with like deep link discussions. Because like I think that's the thing that causes performance issues right now when we are linking to deep linked discussions, is that we have to load everything first before we can scroll down to that note that is deep linked. And oftentimes it takes a while for that to be loaded. Yeah, so I think as the first iteration, yeah, let's just get them all. We'll just paginate in the background. I don't think that's the highest priority right now because it's going to take a while for tasks and OKRs to get more than 100 system notes in. So I think things like maybe ordering is probably a higher priority.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think through the goals for next week's demo. And personally, I'm leaning more towards let's try to get the order drop down in there and have the ability to go from oldest, what is it right now? Oldest to newest, or
Yeah,
newest to
oldest first. Yeah, oldest first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the ability to go newest first, I think is should be a higher priority than the pagination.
Sure.
You good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, so the next one then for anyone else have any questions or anything on system notes? Okay, let's move on to the commenting one. I don't think we have anything to show outside of what Deepika showed. Alexandria's working on adding discussions. I don't know if there's an MR already for it, but to add comments to that same GraphQL API. Simon's going to start working on the front end for discussions, probably borrowing the discussions code from design management, or at least using that to start off with. Anything else to add to that, Simon?
Not yet.
Okay. You want to lay out what you want to try to get done by next week. Just rendering discussions. It's kind of dependent on what where we're at on the back end.
Of being able to add them. Yeah, maybe just fetching the list of discussions, or I don't know, like rendering some kind of fixed list of them.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking. It doesn't even have to be styled yet, but as long as we can just show that we're getting
Some text.
Yeah, we're getting stuff from that API. I think that'll be good. It'll be good to show that kind of progress. Okay, cool. All right, Kushal, hierarchy widget. Did I put this?
Yep.
I don't know if I told you. Or if I
No.
warned you with
I was going to
Deepika.
add it
Okay,
in the
cool.
morning when I start. So I've added more details. So let me share my screen and show it to you. All right. Demo for hierarchy widget. So we now have a tree view running. So I'll just I'll first demo how it behaves, and then we'll do the demo towards adding a new objective or key result. So last week we saw how this widget was showing up within the work items view, where this add drop down button would show a bunch of actions. Now some of these actions are functional, which means you can see key result as well as objectives with the respective icons within the tree view. You can expand an objective and it will show you further objectives and children key results. again, only objective can have children. Key results are leaf nodes essentially, which means key result cannot have any more children inside it. But you can continue expanding as long as you want. And if an objective has further children down up to 9 levels, I think, you can expand it up to 9 levels and see the values here. Clicking on one of these items will navigate to its own page. We did another fix yesterday, which also got merged, was basically fixing this breadcrumb. So earlier, and even today, if you go to gitlab.com and open one of the task item in its own page, you would notice that this parent button shows issue icon, and clicking on it takes you to its respective issue page, because that is hard coded into the breadcrumb logic. So we opened an MR yesterday. I have linked it into our agenda here. So basically what we do now is we identify what the parent work item type is. We show relevant icon, and the URL also points to correct work item. This will act as a good stopgap until we get the model running. So our end goal here is to have a model open up once an item is clicked from this page. And the model will allow you to navigate between all the children while you remain on the page. But until we have that functional, we can navigate to individual work items pages, and you can click on breadcrumb and it will take you to the parent node. So that's how it works. Now going to the create part. So you can basically create a new objective. So I'm going to just say objective 10, and I'll just go ahead and create. So it will immediately get added into the tree list, and this form remains open just in case someone wants to create multiple objectives before they can start using those. Similar for key results, you can click on new key result and just type in the key result name. And it will show up in the list, and clicking on key result will show you all the relevant attributes, except that tree view widget is not available because key results cannot have children. You can add a bunch of attributes here. The tree view doesn't show these labels or assignees on the tree view itself. So that's our goal for next week probably. So in next plan weekly, we will start showing these attributes into the tree view. Similarly, you can add an existing objective, like clicking on existing will show you a list of all the objectives available. So I can just click on this, click on add objective, and it will get added here into the tree view. Yeah, that's about it. Any questions there?
Wait, so sorry, you have, this is an objective that we're looking at right now?
Yes.
Okay. So we can have multi-level objectives?
Yes, so up to 9 levels you can do. So if I go to objective 1, you can see sample objective is its parent. Apparently, our breadcrumb doesn't show all the levels of depth. I would at least prefer to have 3 levels of depth, much like our top level breadcrumb here. But that's a new feature, and I don't think we are planning to do that as a part of MVC. But eventually, we would want to see at least more than 2 levels, because right now, if I go to objective 2, I would have no idea that the parent objective is sample objective because breadcrumb doesn't show it. Sure, once we add support for model, user will stay on the same page, which means that user will continue to see sample objective as a page, while all the children objective will be shown within the model dialog, and clicking on breadcrumb view within the model or the tree view within the model will load the data async. It will not navigate the page. But until we have that model functional, because that's a significant front-end work, I got the breadcrumb working so that we still have a workaround to navigate between objectives, even if it means reloading the page. So if I go further down, so for example, if we are in objective 4, it doesn't have any nodes, so I can basically click on existing objective and it will show me the objective here, and I can click on this add objective. And then if I go all the way to the top level objective, which is 4 levels deep at this point, so if I expand it, you can basically continue to expand it further and it will show the entire thing. In terms of limits, like I mentioned, each parent node can have up to 100 items, which means an objective 1 can have directly 100 children, which could be a combination of key result as well as objectives. But in terms of depth, 9 levels is the limit. So an objective one can only have 8 more children because one level is already there by the sample objective here. So 9 levels deep, 100 items per node. That's the limit for now. Yep.
Cool.
Do we have an issue to just have one set of breadcrumbs on the work items page? 2 breadcrumbs is weird.
Sorry, I didn't get you. You mean not
We've
having?
we've got the sample objective and objective, but we
Yeah.
also have GitLab org, GitLab test, work items.
Okay, yeah.
Could
So
we have project and then objectives and then like
yeah.
one row of breadcrumbs?
So I don't think we have an issue for that because the work items page, as you see right now, is the first instance where the details are shown on a dedicated page itself.
On its own page. Yeah.
Yes. The first instance of using work item was task list, and that was all in model. So user was not seeing both the breadcrumbs
That's all
at once.
breadcrumbs.
But yeah, what you're mentioning makes sense that we need not to have work items here, but that's a separate conversation because I personally would have preferred to have OKRs in its own navigation route rather than part of issues, because if you go to issues list, you can see all your objectives and key results showing up in the issues list, which is already polluting this list because there are a bunch of other types that we support, that is incident, test cases, and task. So I would rather have a separate navigation item, but then again, for the MVC, we are not enabling this feature for all the projects, especially not for GitLab project itself. It will be on its own project where there will only be a bunch of these objectives and key results. There won't be much issues to worry about. So that's the reason why we haven't thought about this breadcrumb yet, because it will be internal use. But yeah, before GA, we might want to look into a way to combine all the breadcrumbs into a single view where user will be able to see group and then project and then eventually OKRs as well as. As a workaround though, this can be renamed via HAML view. It is fairly doable. So there are certain variables that we pass on to the layout view in the HAML. So although it says work items, but even for MVC, I can just go ahead and rename this to say OKRs, and it will work just fine. So that it doesn't confuse user that this is work items. But then again, URL is
not even less that, but just having 2 rows of breadcrumbs.
Yeah, that is definitely.
If we just hide them on the standalone page or
Yeah.
pull them to the left of the others. Anyway, that's not related to OKRs.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so if there aren't any questions, then we can move on to the next one.
A couple things on the breadcrumbs. The second breadcrumb, there was a little bit of a discussion about it with tasks, because there are still a few places where we link to the to this view for tasks. Like anywhere essentially outside of an issue is going to that page. And yeah, we had the same issue with the double breadcrumbs back then. So Alexis put some thought into it, and I think we just deferred the decision on that other breadcrumb on that page. Here I'll link to the discussion on it on a closed issue. I don't think we ever created a follow-up issue, which we should, to continue having that discussion. Because yeah, I agree, having the double, especially if we're going to use that page, I think we'll use it all the time. Actually, I don't know. From the issue list, if we keep objectives or if we keep OKRs within the issue list, down the road, if a user clicks on an objective in the issue list, are we going to want to show that objective in a modal, or are we going to want to always show it on the dedicated page?
So if user is on a issues list page, then whatever objectives they are seeing here, depending on whether that objective itself belongs to some other objective, we are going to take user to its own view. Ideally, what I would want is if an objective is directly root of this particular project, only then it should show up in this list. Right now, if you notice that there are a bunch of children objectives also showing up here. I'm not sure if it is even doable from backend perspective, but ideally I would want only sample objective to show up here because all the other objectives are children of sample objective. And if we want all the children to show up only in model, that means these objectives and key results do not need to show up here. User should only see the top level objective, which is directly at the root level for this project. And when user clicks on this objective, only then they can see all the children objectives which belong to the sample objective directly. So that's a separate conversation. I would have to discuss it with Amanda as well, like whether we want that functionality or limitation in any way, where issues list page will only show objectives which are direct children for this project and not grandchildren for this project, so to speak.
Gotcha. I have a couple of questions around the modal then. If we are within a we open up an objective and then we open up a KR or a key result, we're going to want to show that key result in a modal.
Yes.
Now, what happens if they click on the breadcrumb for the objective from within that modal? Yeah, so it will behave similar to what it does today. Like if you go to task list and if you click on this, it basically reloads the page with issues page as a base page. Ideally, what should happen is if we know that this particular button points to the underlying issue itself, then it should behave similar to what it does when you close the model. Like it should just dismiss the model and should not do anything else. So that behavior is doable. It is fairly easy to do so from purely front end perspective. But right now, yes, clicking on sample objective takes you to a different page because model doesn't exist. We would need to have models show up for pretty much every item when user clicks on any item from the tree. But until model is available, I wanted to have some workaround available, which means I got this breadcrumb working with links clickable and pointing to the correct page. Okay, yeah. So then the next question, if you click on objective from within an objective, so a child objective, should the child objective show up in a modal? Yes, it should continue to remain in model while you are still in model. Okay. So, and then if they click on a key, on a KR from within the second, within the child objective, yes, we should just replace them. It will basically act as a finder window in your operating system. Like as long as you are in a finder window and you click on a path bar and navigate between directories, it stays the same, right? So that's the plan here as well. Like if user is, the moment user is on a root or objective, which is part of the project directly, the moment you open the model by clicking on either of these items and then you start navigating. So for example, imagine that clicking on objective 1 would have opened another model. Then user will see this whole thing inside a model for that objective 1, as well as user will see a tree view with these 3 items showing up there. And clicking on these 3 will just update the data within that model, update the breadcrumb as well as the information while model remains there. And it will be an async operation. It will not reload the page or anything. It will just stay there and user will be able to navigate between the children while model is still open. But the moment user dismisses the model, user will be back to the root objective page, which is a dedicated page. Okay, that makes sense. All right. Any other questions? Cool. We'll skip the progress widget. I think there was an MR. Yeah, there's an MR with some of the backend stuff, but nothing to show on the front end yet. So yeah, I think we're fine with just skipping that and on to Simon's demos.
Okay. Which one's first? Description switcher. So we've got the there was previously a toggle above here for source and rich text, and we've just moved that to this little friendly drop down to switch between markdown and rich text views. And for rich text views, then we also moved the toolbar to the bottom and made the button a little bit smaller. but that's that. Questions? No. Excellent.
Really quick, I have one. What's the plan to default that to on now? Because it's
To
just active
default
for
what's on?
the switcher
The
for ish.
The switch is on by default. The rich text editor versus instead of just this one for work items. That's just in the MVC feature flag.
Yeah, that one's on.
We can
Okay.
default that to on whenever we want.
Okay.
MVC is not defaulted on, is it?
No. MVC, just MVC or MVC2?
MVC.
Yeah, no, that's just on
Yeah. On
GitLab.
plan stage and GitLab org, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
But this is sufficiently ready, I guess. We can move it to the work items flag if we want to do that.
Okay.
Seems okay.
Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. So the toggle you have now, which looks a lot
Yeah.
nicer than the button, are we doing that for issues too behind the current feed?
Yeah, that's everywhere. So
Okay.
that's just everywhere that the editor is. That's on wikis too. I've just moved this. I didn't see much point in keeping the other one, and it was easiest to just delete it. So yeah.
Okay.
We can change it back if we want, but I haven't yet.
Change
Okay,
the-
I just noticed that when you edited the description and switched to the rich editor view, the toolbar was on the top.
Then the
So-
toolbar was at the top.
Yeah.
Yes. That's not the case anymore. I just haven't updated this branch.
Okay.
It's my demo branch.
Yeah.
It'll be at the bottom everywhere except for on wikis, where it will still be at the top.
And I believe we are using TipTap editor, right? Because I remember reviewing a bunch
Yeah.
of MRs around that. So, thanks.
Yeah. That is rich text. And inline notes rendering is just a random science project I picked up. For when you hover to an issue, then you get the tooltip, but that's less useful when you're hovering to a note. So I just added a thing where it's on hover currently, just adds it, and then it waits till you click before loading it. But it just loads the comment inline inside a block quote. So I need to figure out some stuff. If anyone has UI input ideas, we kind of want to be able to collapse this again. And we want some clear things saying that you're like expanding or collapsing the note within this issue. We want to be able to handle nested ones because this is linking to this comment itself. And like, should we have a max depth, or you can just kind of keep expanding comments on the same issue? Yeah, and just what so when we load it, then it just does a line break with any adjacent text because it's just adding in the inline content there. I've just made it load on hover, and then it doesn't expand until you click. But we probably want like some separate expand collapse button, and to still make the links work so that you can still go to the other comment if you want. But yeah. That includes.
Does it work on div comments?
It isn't currently loading on the MR page. Oh wait, no, it might be now. Let's find out. I'll tell you in a moment. Does it work on div comments? Ooh, what's going on there? As in if I link to a div comment?
Yes.
Let's see. I don't know what's going to happen. I want to take bets.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
that
I
work?
don't really know what
Yeah.
we're looking at. Did that work? No, it didn't render the diff. It just rendered the addition.
Yeah, but it's still better. Like if someone is not pointing to a suggestion and they are just adding a syntax highlight thing or maybe just a comment, because there's a huge usability for reviewers where they want to refer to a certain comment and they don't want to basically to jump around between comments.
Yeah, that was the main reason that I was interested in it. And the initial discussion was about adding it in popovers. just so that you could view it like you're viewing notes. But the issue was that for a lot of comments like this one, then that's way too much content to even try putting in a popover. And if you have something like a mermaid diagram at the top, then this little area doesn't show you anything of substance. So I was going to still add some kind of tooltip just saying like click to expand, and we still want then an easy way to click to get to the issue. So that's like unsolved problems is how to make the normal link still work. I was either going to be like when it's expanded, then you can click and we add a separate little button for collapsing or anything. But this was like just having it inline and in a regular block quote element solved most of the issues that I had with them and seemed okay. Because again, with the popovers, then the tricky thing was, would you have a popover inside your popover? And should that be smaller? And we just scale everything down by 75% and the text gets smaller and smaller. I thought that's stupid. Let's just do nested quotes. That concludes the demo.
It's really exciting.
Maybe. Still
It
needs
is.
feedback. I've put a link in the plan related meeting notes to the MR. There's an issue link there as well, just to discuss UI things. But seems useful. Please test.
This is very
Um,
cool. Yeah, it's just very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, in bunch of demos, this acted like a season finale.
Right?
Exactly. This was this was great. Yeah.
How should we test, Simon? Pulling in your MR?
Yeah, just test. Check out the MR, make weird comments and nested comments and big ones. And system notes don't work yet. I still need to update it to do that. But yeah, the main thing to test is just what the interaction should be like. Just need to talk to Nick or Alexis or anyone that has ideas. Just of how we want to do, how to expand them and how collapsing could work.
Yeah.
See you, Zico.
Yeah, I think having a visual separation between a proper block comment that someone has left versus this expanded comment visually, like maybe a different style, would be super useful because user will be able to identify like, okay, this was expanded and this was a block comment.
Versus a regular quote.
Yeah,
That's
that's
super
exactly
cool.
what I was going to say too. Like how does Slack do it when you link to it, when you include a link to another Slack conversation? There's some kind of visual difference there, right?
It shows the commenter's name additionally. So maybe that is something we can leverage. Like if we know who commented this particular comment, then we can show additional information. Like if you form a link to a Slack discussion, it shows who commented that in which channel.
Oh, we do have that.
Yeah.
It has that already. I just didn't add the avatar yet.
Yeah.
But it shows the commenter's name above
Yeah.
it. And
so I think once we have design inputs available, we can combine all of that and it should be like, it can go live.
Yeah, because I wonder if down the road we would want like automatic unfurling of it too, like Slack does. I don't know how that would do performance wise. But yeah, I mean, that might be an option. Okay, we are a bit over time. John had another comment in there, but it's async, just about the retros. So please read that and comment. Yeah, weigh in on the MR. Otherwise, oh, technically it is the first of the month, huh? For all of you, but not for me yet. It's still the end of last month for me. So I don't have a metrics highlights update, and I don't know if anyone does, but maybe next week. Okay. Anyone have anything else? Cool. Call it. Thanks all. Great demo.
thanks, everybody.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.
You too.